Hello and welcome back. This is part two of Basic Anatomy of a Natal Chart. In the last episode, I used Billy Joel's chart just to give us an idea of what a basic chart is all about. Could have used anyone's. We're going to continue with him because why not? Everyone loves Billy Joel. So we spoke the last time about signs and houses and the directions of the chart. I'm going to dive in today with what do all the little squiggles mean? So let's dive back down into Billy's chart and we will pick up from there. All right, so here's Billy Joel's chart as before. One of the main things that you'll see in any chart is a whole bunch of little squiggles, or glyphs as they're properly called, scattered about. And this is going to be different on every chart. And this is where confusion starts to set in and people get anxious. It's like, oh, what does all this mean? I'm going to break it down for you. Nice and easy. And to do that, we're going to jump over to this page here. And we're going to first start teasing things out by two major subgroups. In an astrology chart, there are planets and there are signs. Signs you're familiar with to some extent, but a lot of people are unaware that planets are where the magic happens. So I want to focus on the planets and give you just a teeny tiny meaning of what they do and what process they control. Now keep in mind, I'm doing this from a vibrational astrology perspective, meaning that this may sound a little different for those of you who may have been around astrology for many, many years. So let's start with the planets. I'm going to show you what the glyph looks like for each of the 10 planets and give you just a quick summary of what process each planet regulates. So we have the moon. Moon looks fairly familiar. It looks like a moon. And the moon actually regulates our past and brings previous experiences into the light of day. Don't get too hung up on the meanings now. Remember, I'm just focusing on the anatomy. The sun is the clear and present reality of who and what you are, what you do, what you're all about, the essence of your being. Mercury, and you can recognize Mercury here by these two little antennae, because the sun and moon are pretty easy to remember. Now when we start to get into some of the other planets, you might say, well, how am I going to remember this? I'll give you a little memory technique that I use. You may come up with your own. But Mercury connects and regulates information flow. Now, a way that I help myself remember the Mercury glyph is there are two little antennae on top of a symbol of Mercury. So it looks like Venus with two antennae on top. Speaking of Venus, here it is. Venus regulates how we are attracted to beauty. Yes, love falls into that category, but it's a lot more than love and romantic attraction. So Venus is this planet that helps us figure out what it is that we are attracted to while we're on this plane known as Earth. Then we have Mars. Mars is a symbol just like Mars and Venus that we're all familiar with. You should probably recognize this one. It's the standard symbol of Mars, the circle with the arrow pointed off over to the right. And Mars regulates our ability to get things done and drive. Yes, it could be the warrior. Yes, it could be some of those other things that are more traditional with the definition of Mars. But it really is, where are we going to put our energy? Where's the power going to go? Jupiter looks like a distorted number 4. So Jupiter is all about expansion. Whatever planet Jupiter ends up connecting with, aspecting with, regardless of what the aspect is, it makes whatever it aspects bigger. It blows things up. And that can be good. It can also be bad if it goes a little too far. Next planet is Saturn. Saturn looks like a T with an H on it. How do I remember this one? It looks like a T with an H on it. Okay, that's fine. So what is Saturn all about? Saturn is about being able to strip things down to the bone, get right to the essence, get right to the heart of the matter, and cut out all of the non-essential fluff or things that are not required. Next up is Uranus. And Uranus connects us to the present moment, right here, right now. It's not worried about the past. It's not worried about the future. It's about now. And it has a lot to do with quick reflexes and being able to respond quickly. More details to follow. Then we have Neptune. Neptune kind of looks like that Neptunian scepter type thing that the archetypes have portrayed throughout the years. And Neptune is about what is magical to you. And that could be different for everyone, and it is. Some people define their idea of magic or the ultimate experience as going to a concert of their dreams or maybe attending the Super Bowl. Other people, it's money. So Neptune is all about what is magical to us. And last but not least, in the planetary realm is Pluto. Yes, we still refer to Pluto as a planet, even though it got demoted. For our purposes, Pluto is and always will be a planet. And Pluto is about compulsion and obsession. Not necessarily a bad thing. The planets inherently are not bad or good. You can be compulsive about studying. You can also be compulsive about drinking too much. So wherever Pluto shows up in the chart, there can be this element of compulsivity to just really want to dig in and become obsessed until we hit that particular goal or milestone. Now, if we start to take what I just showed you and we wanted to find the moon in Billy Joel's chart, well, we just circle around the planetary glyphs until we see where it is. So here's the moon for Billy right here. Here's his sun over here. Can you find Mercury? Oh, yes, you can, because it's right over here. Venus, of course, in this chart happens to be right next to Mercury. Where's the pointer? There we go. Mars is going to be right over here. Jupiter, remember, the 4 with kind of a bent end, is positioned here. Saturn is down here. Uranus is right there. Neptune is down here, sitting next to the moon. And then last, and certainly not least, is Pluto. And Pluto is right here. So there you go. In a short period of time, you now know what a lot of these glyphs represent. Now, there's more things that could show up in a chart, but I'm keeping it simple for now until you get the basics. So those are the planets. Well, let's look at the signs, and these you're probably somewhat familiar with here. Aries has the ram as the moniker. Then we have Taurus as the bull. Gemini, a good way to think of Gemini, the Gemini twins, or two sides of a situation, as you can see in the little glyph. Here is the glyph for Cancer. Leo, of course. Leo almost to me looks like he's wearing a robe, a big grand robe there. You'll have to come up with your own mnemonics because ultimately the ones you create are going to help you remember this a lot more easily than mine. Here's Virgo. Here's Libra. Libra's easy because it's like the scales. Here's Scorpio. I generally think of the little stinger here as giving someone a nudge. Again, signs have their own set of meanings. I'm not going to get into those now because there are too many of them. We have Sagittarius, the archer, shooting wide and far. We have Capricorn, a sign I know well because I am one. It's, to me, one of the most non-symmetrical signs, and that's, I'm able to remember that. Aquarius, pretty easy there. You've got water, and by the way, Aquarius is not a water sign, despite what some people think. And last but not least, you have Pisces. So same rules apply. All we got to do is to figure out where Aries is in the chart. Well, we look at the ram symbol here, and this time, instead of looking inside of the wheel, I find that it's easier to look along the outside of the wheel, because in our last video I described what these various points mean on the outside of the circle. So here's Aries there. It's actually intercepted. It's not a good example to use, but that's where his is right now because it's not on a house cusp. But then we can see that Taurus is there, Gemini is here, Cancer, Leo, and again, he's got an intercepted sign, so that's throwing the wheel off a little bit. Then we have Virgo down at the bottom. We have Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, another double Aquarius there hitting two house signs, and then or house cusps rather, and then Pisces. Now, an interesting thing about zodiac signs compared to planets, they're always going to follow the same order. Now, where the zodiac starts on someone's chart is always going to be different. But if we look over here back to our little grid, this is positioned in the natural zodiac. They always follow this order. They never change. It's always going to be Aries all the way through to Pisces, and then it starts at the beginning again. That's not the same with planets. Planets are all over the place, depending on where someone was born at the time of their birth. And the zodiac wheel along the outside of the chart, that rotates along as well. So the placement of someone's zodiac signs, specifically their ascendant and everything else, that's going to be different, but the order of these is going to be the same. In the next video, I'm going to get into what the numbers mean inside of the wheel. It's actually pretty simple, but as I've said in previous videos, I want to keep things simple and in bite-sized chunks. So here's what I recommend that you do. Go back and look at the previous slide, freeze frame it, and begin to study which glyph corresponds with each planet and which sign. The more you can refer to these by memory, the easier it's going to be for you to spot things in your chart or someone else's. And in the next video, we'll dive a little deeper into the natal chart. Thanks so much for watching. If I've earned your subscription, hit the bell, do the like, wherever this is showing up, do your thing, and I'll continue to push these videos out. And if you've got questions, feel free to ask. My name is Michael Spremuli with Blue Ridge Astrology. Thanks so much for watching. That's enough for now, and we'll see you next time.